Hello, everybody. This is Frank with Iron Age News. It's Friday, May 30th, around 6 p.m. Been a bit rainy, so that means some of the construction projects were called off today. Speaking of which, I'm sure some of you are seeing the videos on Instagram and TikTok and all the other services with these large construction sites with the ICE units running around and arresting everybody and how it's a shame, the hardworking people, blah, 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 bullshit when you really, if you have not been in the construction industry ever in your life, may want to wonder what kind of jobs they are actually on and whose job they're actually taking. Because I know of at least two of the videos occurring up, I think, believe near Gainesville. It's for off campus housing. One of them, I think, is off campus housing. One of them, I'm not sure what it is, but I think it's tied to the university. And the thing with that is whether or not they are using state and federal funds to do any of this work. Because once one is using state and federal funds to do this type of work, we have a thing called prevailing wage, and we usually have a thing called a certified payroll. Okay. And bear with us for a second so we can explain it before all you people in Massachusetts who seem to not know a goddamn thing. Considering you're supposed to be a union town, you don't know a thing about anything when it comes to illegal labor. All right. Certified payroll is required on government funded construction projects. It is supposed to guarantee that workers are paid fair, legal, and prevailing wages, which would be whatever the state prevailing wage is or the federal prevailing wage. If you're working on a military base or anything like that, there is a different wage that you will be paid. Okay. And it comes with a signed statement of compliance submitted to federal or state agencies under penalties of law. I'm reading this to you so that you can always tell your friends who know more than you that they're tragically full of shit. In other words, it's just not paperwork. It is a legal document. Okay. It's a legal document that's being signed. There's usually somebody that comes by and collects them, or you turn them into the office on the job site or some mechanism to capture those. And there are usually multiple copies made for if it's a local job, maybe it's for a city, but they're using state or federal money or whatever it is. Okay. The fraud that is occurring and has occurred for many, many years, and I will bring up the University of Florida. I'd say it was 15 years ago when they did the big renovation to the property, and they can bring me into court if they'd like, because I think it was atrocious that they brought so many Mexicans, and they were actually Mexicans because they went and got them and brought them there. It wasn't South Americans that live around here. It wasn't Puerto Ricans who are apply under our citizenship, so they're not illegals. They brought them in from Tejas or wherever, but they were Mexicans and they worked on the University of Florida property illegally through a company that verified that they were all legal, which they were not, and the company vanished. Nobody got in trouble. The contractor didn't get in trouble, or the contractor knew, all that kind of stuff. But we'll let that slide this time. Okay. What happens here, and what people have to realize is this is a felony. All right. And they say, well, why are Juan and Juan getting wrapped up and taken away if all they're doing is working? Well, no, they're illegally here, which is problematic. And secondly, if they're working on a prevailing wage job site, then it's a felony because somebody's either lying about what they're getting paid or lying about them being Americans, because you have to at least, I believe, give 4 digits of your social security number now. We used to have to give your full social security number, and they would make a copy of your driver's license or whatever he had. Things change a little bit in there, okay? Now, here's the fraud. Contractors or subcontractors submit fake social security numbers, false I-9s or recycled identities. There used to be a scam where I think it was every 90 days somebody would check. So the groups would move from contractor to contractor on the site. About if it's 90 days, let's say every 80 days, they would move to a different guy. They're still on the site, but now they're hired by different groups. So they were missing the oversight guy. Now somebody had to tell them that, right? So there's a lot of finagling going on there. So They also list illegal workers on the certified payrolls as if they were legal employees. Once again, was not very easy to pick up on the old days. The wage data is falsified, often underpaying the worker and pocketing the difference, which is a big problem here. The fake forms are sent to government agencies to secure the payment. Okay, it's not just illegal, it enforces a very bad precedent that a lot of these contractors, especially in right to work states, enjoy, which is almost slavery. All of you Democrat, socialist pieces of garbage out there who are boo-hoo-hooing about something, why aren't you boo-hoo-hooing that one are getting ripped off, usually to the tune of $10 to $20 an hour when they're on these job sites? You don't bring that up too often, do you? If you realize the money that would have been spent to pay an American, doesn't matter who, black, white, yellow, green, whatever, there's your step out of the poor neighborhood, right? Instead, the contractors get to use cheap labor, they get to keep the difference in the money, and they get to not have to hire the Americans because who knows what'll happen next. They'll want to unionize like Starbucks, right? So that's kind of what you're up against with that. And here we have who's liable. And this is what bothers me. We'll round up these illegals and we'll throw them out of the country. I don't believe you will hear very often about anyone hitting the contractor because they have built a wall around themselves with deniability. If they were stupid contractors, right? Any contractor who would sign off on the fake reports can be charged under 3 different counts of U.S. criminal code: false statements to the government, fake immigration documents, hiring unauthorized workers. The civil penalties for this are up to $16,000 per worker. The criminal penalties include 5 to 10 years in prison per count. All right, states like California and New York have additional laws, including disbarment from public projects, etc. Now, I know most of you aren't really civil-minded or don't care, but for those of you who are watching this that maybe have a cousin or an uncle or a neighbor who's in a competing business and you hate them a lot, maybe you ought to see who's working for them. I'll take my law enforcement however I can get it. If you want to turn these guys in, the ICE will come out and do them for you. If they can prove that this was done intentionally, I just told you what you're looking at: $16,000 per worker. Why do you think the video where they're on the big construction site and they're all running into the woods and all that shit? They're afraid that they're going to get tangled up in that. They have probably been told that they will be fined $16,000. The fine will go to the contractor. All right. So, of course, these bitches are running. And well, they should. But this is just another one of these things that just bothers you. I mean, we're not doing anything real serious about this because we all know about certified payrolls. We all know that kind of stuff. When people are out there telling you, oh, the hardworking this and the hardworking that, and the American will not work for what the Mexican will work for. Well, you know what? The Mexican is not supposed to be working for what the Mexican's working for. The Mexican's supposed to be getting this kind of a number. That's what bothers you when you hear some of these farmers. When you hear, we just did a little thing. We're not going to put it out right now because it's more involved than it should be. The United States is complaining now, that people are complaining that we're holding up visas for medical workers. 4,000 or 5,000 of them, and some nurses are on saying, oh, Trump is evil, Trump, blah, blah, blah. The health industry now, as a given on how they're going to operate, relies on foreign medical workers to fill in gaps in the U.S. healthcare system because they don't pay them as much. They can send them to a shit neighborhood or a shit hospital, and they will go there and they will like it. And they can't get the Americans to do that. So instead of fixing the hospital or working with the community maybe to tame it, I mean, Fort Apache is Fort Apache. You can't get around it. When I went to school, my hospital, Temple Hospital, was called the Knife and Gun Club. I think it's still called the Knife and Gun Club because that was the area setting. North Philadelphia, represent, right? stab and shoot the shit out of everybody. So they have relied on these 4 to 7,000 extra medicals people to come in there and do a job that, as you realize, the healthcare industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. You don't think they can't fix things in their community? A big hospital can't fix things in their community. Are you kidding me? Right? The overall problem and the biggest fight out there on immigration is not people's petty sensibilities about these people being pushed out of the country. They were brought here. The big wave that was just brought here was brought here to bring us down. The little waves that we've been hit with have been able to have some sugar coating on it because they're doing jobs that allow large corporations to steal money from American citizens. I am a very hardcore on the Republican side, MAGA person, but it does not mean I am going to allow theft. I'm not going to allow slavery because it's slavery. You're not supposed to allow these kind of things. You're not supposed to want to see it around you, right? So you got to speak out on it. There is no party line anymore, people. I keep saying that to you. The other people say the same thing. We all say the same thing. There is no party line. You either have to have a certain point that you understand what's up or you don't. These other people are like, oh, well, this guy's, he's out there cutting my grass and all this bullshit. Well, if you were able to cut your own grass, cut your own grass. If you're not able to cut it, I had a guy who cut it for a while when I was laid up. He was from Alabama. He's a white guy. He cut it better than the third worlders. They destroyed half my plants because they don't give a fuck, right? And they think you couldn't speak Spanish to them. That's a personal anecdote. I'm sure there are wonderful Spanish-speaking landscapers out there. I just don't know who any of them are. But you have them doing jobs that you don't think you're going to have to pay attention to, and that's the problem. Every job has to have some level of professionalism. Go and watch on Instagram. Go watch the inspector videos. These guys that do inspections. There's a few of them. You pick any one you want. Most of them are being done in the zone where it's almost exclusively Mexican workers. Look at the shit work that they're doing because they're paying them nothing. If you pay a guy nothing, what kind of work's he going to do? Right? The key to those guys is they show up every day. The Americans don't always show up every day. These guys show up every day. They do a shit job, steal other people's tools, whatever, right? Oh, and if you tell me that's never happened, you've never been on a real construction site. But that's where I'm going with this. There are so many lies being told, and half of them are the United States industries that have relied on these loopholes, that have relied on this slave labor and made money on it. It's not like they were like, if we don't have slave labor, we won't be able to stay in business. Not true. Look at the Toll Brothers, a very large corporation, right? I'm sure they've had a couple illegal people work for them. Could be wrong. They could bring me to court, but I think I could find 5 or 6 because I remember at least 8 or 9 jobs that I was around that they were wall to wall. They all came in advance, right? And they did the shittiest work I've ever seen. You could put a marble on the middle of the floor and not know which corner it was going to go to. So enough about the quality of workmanship. The fact of the matter is, these people are breaking laws. When you say they're not doing anything wrong, they're breaking a federal, you see right there, a lot of times it's a federal law. Not just a federal law that they broke by breaking into the country, the law that says that they're not supposed to be on this job. And the more important thing is they're depriving an actual American citizen of working there. And if somebody says, well, he only gets paid $12 to work there, I'm telling you it's probably 35 to 40, depending on what the prevailing wage is in the certain areas. So don't get over this $12 an hour bullshit. He's not getting paid right. You see what the real prevailing wage is. That's what the number is supposed to be. They give you a list of all the type of jobs that would be done there. Very similar usually to the union scale. Union scale is usually prevailing wage, close to it. So you'll see this big jump in your number because we were not a union company. So we did not get paid what the union got all the time until we went on to a prevailing wage site. And then we got whatever they got. Personal experience, 15 years, right? So this is all bullshit. Do not feel sorry for any of these people. If it's possible, turn the contractors in. You see these guys and they're working and you know it is a project that is for the city or the state, because let me tell you, if it's a city or state project, they were probably supposed to hire X amount of people that lived in the neighborhood. So you got a bunch of unemployed black people or Spanish people or white people or whatever they are in your community. X amount of those jobs were probably supposed to go to them. So if you don't care about your community, that's fine. If you hate black people and white people and Spanish people that are American citizens, then that's fine. Ignore what I've said. But if you do care about your own citizens and you do want to see somebody get a chance to get out of poverty, because, you know, what's the worst case scenario? An extra $600 to $1,000 a week compared to they were making $1,200 a month on the welfare, right? We're talking men now. Women get paid different on welfare. I don't even think men get that kind of money. That's what we're talking about. And the sooner it gets into some of these people's thick fucking skulls, the better off we're all going to be. So anyway, that's it. Have a good weekend, and I will talk to you later on. Bye.